Hi everyone, welcome to Here We Are, Brattleboro's community talk show. I'm Wendy O'Connell, and we're back again this week. We're real happy today because on our show we have Jim Giddings. Jim is an artist, a painter of images placed in abstract settings. He renders surfaces that morph and change in his process of creation. Jim also worked at the Brattleboro Museum Art Center for 32 years. He did a lot of crucial behind-the-scenes work of many different things. In the late 80s, he was a founder of Windham Art Gallery, which a lot of us remember, that was down on Lower Main Street. And in 2014, Jim and his wife, Petey Mitchell, established Mitchell-Giddings Fine Arts Gallery on Upper Main Street, the other end. It is a truly gorgeous, spacious environment for art. You should stop in and see it. It's wonderful for art, for artists, and for viewers alike. As the late Wolf Kahn proclaimed on their opening night, you've brought Paris to Brattleboro. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Sure.
Yes, glad to talk to you. You are actually a native Vermonter.
Not a native. I was raised in Vermont, born in Boston, but lived in Vermont since I was 2.
Oh, okay. So that makes you like semi.
Yeah. If people put it that way, I let it ride. But,
you're a Vermonter.
Pretty close.
Yes. I mean, I consider myself a Vermonter, and I've only been here 44 years. So, yes, but I wasn't born here. So you grew up in Bennington. You have a twin brother.
That's right.
Are you identical?
We're identical.
You are?
Yeah.
Did you ever play with that?
Often.
Did you?
Yeah, we had some good ones.
I bet that was fun.
Yeah.
Do you have other siblings?
I have a sister and an older sister and older brother. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's 4 of us.
4 kids.
Yeah.
And twins in the middle there?
Twins at the end.
At the end.
Yeah, right after the war.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And your dad was an MD?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you think of following in his footsteps?
Yeah, I did. And both David and I were thinking about medicine. I was also thinking perhaps teaching biology, doing something with biology, and I even imagined being a medical illustrator. I thought that'd be kind of cool. And I still am intrigued by that. But yeah, we both did.
You both
think
did.
of that, yeah.
So how did you get onto art?
Well, I had always been interested in drawing, and I didn't do any drawing in high school, but before that I had taken classes at the Bennington Museum and did a lot of work on my own, but just, kid stuff. But when I was at college, I was having some difficulty with all of the sciences and thought I'd take an art course just to change the load. And it was thrilling to me. It was absolutely thrilling. The art history was wonderful. I loved watching the slides and just sitting there and listening, and made a huge switch.
I bet you had a good teacher too, in order to enliven that.
There were some really good teachers. The department as a whole was not very well known at Amherst College, where I went.
Were you in school when David Eisenhower was there?
Yes. Yeah, we were.
That made it a very safe campus in a lot of ways,
and
right?
Julie Nixon was at Smith.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember there's a photo of them in Life magazine, riding in a convertible between the schools. Yeah. Did you get to know him?
We met. I didn't know him very well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I just put that together. The other thing that's cool about you being at Amherst was that you were in the Glee Club.
That's right.
Right, and you had a really cool trip.
Oh, we had an incredible trip. It was a really good organization, and in 1967 we did a European tour, and kind of significant for all of us, but our memories have been rekindled. We did a high mass at Notre Dame, and there were about 60 of us in the Glee Club, and it was just what the place was meant for and what the music is meant for. It's remarkable.
Must have been so powerful.
Yeah.
And now, it was just in early December when they reopened.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've been following that.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
What a wonderful experience.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. You graduated and you actually were teaching art at Deerfield for a while. Yeah.
That's right. Right after I graduated, that fall I began teaching 88 kids in high school. And Yeah, I taught studio art and art history.
Uh-huh.
And it was tough.
It was tough.
The kids were wonderful, but a lot of them knew quite a bit. I had, my job cut out, just staying ahead and making sure that I could make sense to them.
And it was all.
I loved it. I did.
You did?
I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. And was it all boys then?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those schools were either boys or girls.
That's right. There were only
it's
one.
kind of
I don't even
amazing.
remember who had changed by then, but yeah.
Yeah. You did some coaching there as well.
I coached soccer and hockey.
Mm-hmm. And you came to Brattleboro in '77, not long
That's
after
right.
that, actually. What brought you to Brattleboro?
Well, I wanted to return to Vermont. I had been teaching in Massachusetts. My first wife and I moved to Colorado, and then she went to law school in Ohio. So there were several years in there where we were not in Vermont, and she got a job after graduation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we moved to Brattleboro.
You came back. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
this is late '70s. What were you doing then in Brattleboro?
Well, I was mostly just painting, and
nice.
I began to work as a janitor, and I was trying to find little jobs that could keep me going with the painting, something that was flexible, and it didn't really matter what, but I enjoyed what I was doing, and it gave me a lot of time to paint. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I was doing. And then in '82, like you mentioned, I moved on to begin doing small jobs at the museum, and that morphed from there.
Yeah, and in '82, I'm trying to remember back, I don't even think it was open full time then.
No.
It was smaller scale.
The offices were open, they were downstairs.
Yeah.
The upstairs, the galleries, there was no air conditioning, there was no heat upstairs. And so it would close down in the winter.
Mm-hmm. Who was the director then, do you remember?
Yeah, Rod Falds.
Oh. Was he one of the people who got it going?
No, I don't remember when he was hired, but he was there when I started. I believe it opened in 1972 as a museum.
Oh, was that early?
Yeah, and so it was a big group of volunteers, and I don't remember who ran it then.
I know there was a group of women who kind of, once, it was around the time I think that they tore down the library on Main Street and put up a parking lot, literally, next to the post office.
Okay.
And they were determined to not let that happen to the train station. I'm sorry, I can't remember their names right now.
Yeah.
You talked, Jim, about some things that influenced you. One was being in Maine, spending time for many years in Maine.
Yeah, I started to go to Maine. There was a small group of people, graduates, former students of Windham College, and they went up to a place called Small Point, not far from Bath and Brunswick, and they asked me to come up with them. I began to stay up there during the summers, rather than, that would have been in 84, I think, might have been the first summer that I, rather than return to Brattleboro after a couple of weeks in Maine, I just stayed for the entire summer.
So what was compelling to you about Maine in particular?
Oh, it was so different from Vermont. I loved the ocean.
Yeah.
I just absolutely loved the ocean, and I felt very free up there. I was working at a campground for some of that time, but I was able to paint. I was able to go out anywhere and paint, and I loved being on the water. I did a lot of painting of people on the beach, and then in the evenings there were a couple of bars that I would paint at the bars. Yeah,
That's kind of nice.
It was a lot of fun.
It's kind of a romantic way to live, right?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being able to do your art and then socialize to a certain degree. And the Vermont Studio Center, was that also, you spent time there as well?
Yeah, I did a residency there in 2014.
Oh,
yeah.
Recently, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I had never been before, and so I was there for a month, and it was really remarkable. It was a huge, wonderful experience.
Yeah.
I hadn't been painting as much, and it really got me supercharged again.
I've never heard a negative thing about Vermont Studio Center.
Yeah, I don't think you will. Yeah.
It's really incredible. So, Jim, talking about these things that have influenced you, And the fact that you have been doing art since you were barely in your 20s. Can you talk a little bit about how your technique has changed over the years, or your relationship to the easel, or to however you're painting? And one thing you said was that you add or remove paints as I add or remove insights, which is a really good quote.
When I graduated from college, I majored in art history, and that day when we got our degrees, I considered myself a professional painter. And I began my work as a professional artist. And I was doing watercolors. I was teaching watercolor probably until the late 80s. And towards the end, I was doing some other pastels and other mediums too, but all watercolors. And that kind of culminated in the late 80s with a series of paintings over a couple of years of water paintings, watercolor paintings of water.
Oh.
And it was appropriate. As I look back on it, that was a very important time for me. There was a realization through the painting that I thought they showed some development. And then I began to work with oil paint sticks. I thought, this is really where my painting should go. And so I began to work with paint sticks, and I thought that would be a path to tube paints, brushes and oils, but I liked the paint sticks, and I just stayed with them. I never did get the tubes out, except for a couple of colors. That's really been my focus, and I have gone back to some watercolors, but the paint sticks allowed me to really get more physical and push paint around, get darker, deeper, and that was important to me.
Yeah, it's very direct.
Yes.
Yeah, for folks who don't know, paint sticks are about, what, 5 or 6 inches long?
Yeah, they can be bigger. There's two sizes.
Are there?
Yes, yeah. And that's right. They're really good for gestural work, for drawing, basically. And you don't use a palette. I put the paint on, just rub paint on, so it's all these little marks, and then you push that around with a brush. And you don't have to use medium. You can. It depends on what you're painting on, too. I like working on paper. But, so I had no need for tubes and brushes and oils and everything. And I was in Maine and then Canada. And so I needed something that was easy to carry around, that you could just pack up and throw in the car and not worry about it spilling. There were some people making in upstate New York that were making these incredible beautiful, luscious paint sticks, all high quality ingredients, and so you weren't getting something that was filled with wax and other fillers. It had a little bit of wax to hold it together, but the quality was that of any high quality oil paint.
Staying with painting, you've mentioned that for you a lot of it is the mystery of things, the mystery of painting, and not going in with anything preconceived necessarily, but finding ways to help things emerge from the marks that you're making.
I can't say that was always true. I think there should be some mystery or something that keeps you wondering in a painting. But I was doing landscape or scenic painting, but I wasn't focusing on a thing. I wasn't painting things, and one of the reasons I referred to the water paintings, I would go out to this island off the coast of Maine. It was 25 miles off the coast of Maine. It's only 1 or 2 islands farther away. It was owned by a lobstering family, and they'd take me out, and then they'd go, and there was nothing else on the island. There was a tiny little shack and no trees. And there were some places that gave me a spot that I could look straight down into the water. And so that was the sum of the painting, was the surface of the water looking down. And the water was always moving. And so that got me away from, but well, it's kind of, it's too many contradictions. I often thought of these paintings as very realistic and totally abstract at the same time. It doesn't make sense, but I was trying like crazy to capture movement, the movement of water.
Yeah.
And it was impossible, so it was my interpretation of it. But it's quite different from painting a barn or painting trees and stuff, which I did a lot of painting of trees. Anyway. And that changed with the oil paint sticks. For one thing, I was moving inside, and that became a studio adventure. And so I was moving away from something in front of me to working from my head. And so then, to your point, I was trying to make sense out of these marks, which were kind of abstract on the page. And often I put a reference of numbers or letters or people or something like that, but like you also said, in an abstract setting.
You talk also about how your painting is getting darker and darker, more rich in color,
Yeah,
but
people
darker.
bring that up.
Do they? Yeah.
yeah, they're wondering what's wrong with me.
Is it part of the mystery?
Yeah, it is. It is, and I have this urge to just make it darker and darker.
Go with it, right?
Yeah.
If you're feeling it, you go with it.
Yeah.
Jim, you and Petey are major players in the New England art scene and have been for over 4 decades in one way or another. You've brought so many artists into our view, but you've also made connections with artists themselves, and I think that's a big part of what sets you apart maybe from other art organizations or galleries or whatever is the kind of support and cheerleading, if you will, about promoting your artists. And I know you've got quite a stable of artists. So I think that that's one of the things that really shines through for the community as well, and of course further afield. But the fact that you are invested in a lot of different ways, a lot of very humanistic kind of ways. And you just celebrated 10 years.
That's right.
Yeah, at this location on Main Street, Upper Main.
We are, our current exhibit is our 10th year anniversary. But it's been incredible working with really wonderful people, really wonderful artists, and a lot of local artists. I've never figured out the percentages. I guess maybe 50% of our artists are from Vermont or very close regional, but we work with artists, a lot of New York artists, a couple of people that were connected to Brattleboro, but one of them's in Hawaii, one of them's in Oregon, so Pennsylvania. But it's a really nice group of regional artists and local artists. And Petey's and my intent is to share their work with the town and with each other. It's a universal language. Painting is a universal language. And these are all people that are seeking beauty and finding it in their own way. And so it's been really important to us that we can give them the very best exposure that we can. And we do that with the website. We do that with, obviously, our intention to hang the best shows. We're lucky because we have a beautiful space.
Yes.
And so we can put up a large show and still give things plenty of space. And each piece can have its own important space. We don't have to cram things in.
No, that's the thing about that space, is that there's so much light in there without obscuring any of the art at all, which can sometimes happen. But there's so much light and there's so much space. And you also have kind of 3 somewhat distinct areas.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's helpful too, because there's something about moving through space, and moving from one place to another.
Yeah. It allows us to feature. We can have 2 or 3 different artists featured. We have a lot of flexibility.
Yes. Yeah. Did you build that in? Did you know that was going to be the result?
I think we knew that we had been downstairs for 5 years, and it was hard to move up. It was hard for me because I enjoyed what we had created.
Yeah.
But Petey, who was the visionary through getting us downstairs and getting us upstairs both, she foresaw that, and she was able to understand that with more space and just with the way those three rooms are divided, that we could do exactly what you're saying. We could do a big solo show in the front part of the gallery, feature one other artist, and then have a group show in the back, which is how we often do it now.
Yeah, and it works. I think it works really well. To mention the next thing, is that you've seen fire and you've seen rain in the course. And I think that what we're going to talk about next is a real testament to both of you and to what you've been able to move through in order to have your dreams manifest. So in 2016, I believe it was, you had a home studio fire.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bad day. And it was August 30th, 2016, and well, I don't need the gory details, but the whole studio went up, and I lost everything that was in the studio. And I did have, it's sort of funny, I had a lot of paintings at the gallery. I had taken them down, and we were fighting for storage space. And Petey kept on saying, well, get these paintings, back to the studio so that we have more space for some. And I was being a little bit late with that, tardy. I had taken several paintings, but I had, I think, 18, if I'm not mistaken, 18 paintings at the gallery that were spared because they hadn't made it to the studio. But all the other framed paintings, anything else that I've been showing, including a large number of those water paintings from the late 80s.
Yeah.
One of them survived because it was up in Petey's studio. One of them, I don't remember where it was, but I have 2 or 3 of those left. That was 2016.
Yeah,
and
that was 2016.
Yeah, we had huge outpouring of support. Within a day or two, we had people setting up an auction and raising money and everything.
Wow.
It was remarkable.
Yeah. So you had already started with the gallery downtown when this happened.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then when you were downstairs, right? You were still downstairs when you had some flooding. Yeah,
that was another bad day. So that was. So we had 2 floods. We had one when we had decided to move upstairs, and we're renovating. Donna and Larry were moving their stuff out.
Candle in the Night.
Candle
right.
in the Night. Yeah, they were there for over 40 years, and they had a lot of the space downstairs where all of their rugs and were stored downstairs in huge piles that kids would come in and play on.
Yep.
And so the workers upstairs in our present gallery space knocked a sprinkler head off, and that flooded the entire building. So Don and Larry suffered a huge loss.
Upstairs and downstairs.
Upstairs and downstairs. Wow. And our gallery was totally flooded out. And so that was November 9th of 2019. We were already working on the renovations. And so, I mean, for all of the things that were horrible, there were some incredible, wonderful things to come from it. One, we had the crew working with us, so we didn't have to go find somebody. And we were able to open on the same day that we had scheduled.
Wow.
In spite of having to replace the floor, redo a lot of the sheetrock and everything else. Don and Larry, that was a different story. They had a huge mess that they had to deal with, but they also came out on the other side. So that was pretty remarkable. We were lucky for that. We didn't lose one painting.
Amazing.
Yeah, well, all of our work's still downstairs because we're still running a show. And we just had everything stored off the ground because you don't want to store paintings or anything on a cement floor.
Right.
So it was all, off the ground. So the water never got to it. Then the other incredible good side of everything was we put the word out to Brattleboro West Arts. We're members of Brattleboro West Arts. Can you guys, can some people show up at 7:30 tomorrow morning because we have to move everything out of the gallery? Bob Lyons found us a space, and at 7, not 7:30, there were 14 people outside waiting for us. And it was conveyor belt and people walking down Main Street with every single piece of artwork from Mitchell-Giddings to that space that Bob had found for us.
Incredible! Wow!
And so that was the story downstairs. The ceiling had fallen in. The walls were all soaked on the way up, up off the ground, and so. That had to be taken care of. But those two things, the fact that we had a crew already lined up, and that was John Brunell, and he and his crew were right there. So we were able to start, open up the upstairs on middle of December, just before Christmas.
Of 2019.
2019,
right.
And then the COVID hit. And then the following fall, in November also. So it's a flat roof on the 81 Main, and there are drains that all funnel to one big trunk line. The trunk line broke in a big rainstorm, and all the water came down, of course, on the wall inside our gallery. And once again, the water, we found out about it because the motion detector picked up the water flowing down the walls. But it went between, this is a gallery-wide show of photographs. It went between the two photographs. We had to remat one painting, one photograph, that was it.
Wow.
And so we moved everything out of that back 2 rooms, concentrated it in the front. We had to rebuild the floor and do some more sheetrock. But
unbelievable, Jim. Unbelievable, just in terms of, you start thinking about fate a little bit, right? With things like this, like what's the story here, what's the message here? And at the same time, I think what's remarkable, as I've pretty much said already, is the fact that you folks have persevered. You and Petey have persevered through all of this. And, instead of being burdened by it, also, of course, your connections in the community and the people that came to help you and to be part of the whole, restoring process.
We got such support. I mean, we're eternally grateful.
Yeah,
and
I bet you
couldn't
are.
begin to mention all the people, but people who raised money, people who came and helped, and people who just returned to look at the paintings.
Yes.
If nothing else, they come in and love the gallery. That's all we need.
Who could say more, and who could want for more? It's a beautiful thing what you've created, and manifested, and just built the connection in our community, which of course reverberates out from it as well. In the midst of this, you have won a bunch of awards. You and Petey Mitchell-Giddings, you won the Ewing Arts Award in 2022 as presenter of the arts.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a great award.
We were really honored by that. It was quite a surprise, and it was wonderful. It's a great award, and we've watched other people get it, so deserving, and we're very thankful for that.
Yeah, and that's over in Keene.
Yeah.
Yes.
They have spread into southern Vermont for some of the artists.
Because they couldn't resist. Who could resist, right? And then VCTV gave you a Community Partners Award, which is a pretty great award too, working with you. And I think that had a lot to do with your artist talks as well. Yes,
we started doing artist talks pretty much when we began the gallery. And so our first one, I think, was in 2014. I don't know if that was with BCTV, I can't remember. But we have worked with them for 10 years. And
that's another great thing you do for the community, is have the artist talks, because it's not just a quick 20-minute thing. It's a pretty in-depth talk that you get questions and answers as well. but it gives the artist a chance to really talk about his or her art and what's going on, and opening it up for the community that way.
Yeah.
And then you got the Brattleboro Entrepreneurs of the Year Award in 2020.
That's right. I couldn't have told you the year, but yeah, that was just wonderful.
A good year to get an award.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, thanks.
And that's really honoring, what the two of you have put together and brought to the community.
Well, thank you. And what a community to bring
I know
the paintings to. Yeah.
I know, we're really lucky, huh? Yeah, it's a
Yep.
great community. Jim, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wendy.
Good
This
to
has
have
been
you.
my pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure too. Thanks to all of you for being with us today for a really fun show with Jim Giddings of Mitchell-Giddings Art Gallery on Main Street in Brattleboro. Stop by, stick your head in, look at all the great stuff. It's not just paintings on the wall either. There are also some pretty remarkable craft art items to take a look at. So stop by and say hello. And meanwhile, we'll be back again next week, so tune in and we'll be here. Thanks for tuning in today.